welcome back to another episode of the Brandmerry podcast. This is our last episode before my summer break, so I thought it would be fantastic to talk about summer content hacks. Today's episode is going to be all about determining what you do this summer. Now, we know how important content creation is as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, growing your brand. Showing up consistently truly is important because it allows you to get your brand in front of new people, attract the right ideal customer with that high quality content, and of course, leads to the sale. But that doesn't mean that you always have to be doing the exact same thing. And one of the things that I have really embraced over the last few years is taking a summer vacation from my normal content creation strategy. And I hope today's episode gives you some ideas and some inspiration to do the same, because there is nothing better than coming back fully inspired and re-energized to take on the fall season. Now, one of the things that I realized a few years ago was that I really didn't want to work the normal schedule that I was working in my business during the summer. I wanted a lot of flexibility. I wanted to be outside. I wanted to take the whole day off if I felt like it. And while, yes, I could restructure my schedule to still create my content, I also noticed something else. My audience wanted to do the exact same thing. Yes, all of you were actually taking less time to consume content. You are listening to less podcasts, watching less videos, maybe even opening less emails, and for sure, less and less time on social media. Now, obviously, these trends can change, but for the past 3 years, I have seen that this holds pretty freaking steady. So I thought, if this is what I am feeling, and this is how my audience is acting, then can we make it work for the both of us? And we sure can. So I want to share with you a little insight into what I do during my summer break. Okay, and I'm using the words break in air quotes because I'm not fully stepping away from my business. I don't take a full sabbatical. I'm still showing up, but I'm doing it in different ways. And the big thing is that I'm taking a break from creating new content via my standard content strategy, which, as I've discussed before, is creating podcast episodes weekly. And, last month we added the addition of the YouTube channel as well. Now, those podcasts are then repurposed into blog format. We push those new posts out on Pinterest. I create YouTube shorts. I post reels on social media. I email my audience, right? Extending the life of that content. But creating that content, it does take a lot of time and brain power. So when I'm taking my summer break, I am really focused on a few key pieces. One, I don't create new content for the podcast or for YouTube, okay? And I typically don't prioritize creating new content for the blog unless I get a really great idea. So last year, I got a really great idea to create some summer guides and some resource pages. And so we created those on the blog. That felt really good. It felt inspired, but it wasn't something that was in my content calendar. So podcast, YouTube, blog do not get any new content for that period of time. Now, typically, I'm taking anywhere from a month and a half to 2 months off from creating new content, okay? So that's number one. Number two is that I am still showing up. And where I'm showing up is on my email list. Now, I have talked a lot about email marketing here on the podcast, and I have videos over on YouTube and resources on the blog, but your email list truly is everything. I believe that that is where you are going to get the biggest ROI for your time and your energy. So when I'm considering, okay, if I want to pull back this summer on content creation, but I'm still going to show up somewhere, where do I show up? Where I get the greatest ROI, duh. So I'm still emailing my list throughout the summer, and I prioritize sharing past content with them to make sure that they've seen it, to provide resources that might be helpful for them. I have a series, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about series in a couple minutes, called the Sunday Letters, where I share inspiration and motivational kind of storytelling type of emails on Sundays, which I typically do just during the summer months. And it's where I'm promoting any of my products or my services during the summer. So I'm still emailing my list, but again, it is not to share, hey, new podcast episode is out. And again, this is where I am getting the greatest ROI. So when I want to cut back on the amount of time I'm putting in my business, I want to put that time that I do have into something that's going to create the biggest bang for my buck, and that for me is going to be email marketing. The third thing that I do is I do not create a content calendar for social media. So while I'm not taking a full sabbatical from social media, I'm still showing up. I'm allowing myself to show up without expectations and from a place that's inspired. If I wake up on July 1st and I'm like, I'm going to do 30 days of reels, I'm going to let myself do that. If I wake up and I'm like, I'm not going to post for 3 weeks, I'm going to let myself do that. Because what I'm really wanting to do with this break is take a break. Experiment with things, do things based on my inspiration during that time, but not feel like I'm with my normal routine or my schedule. And as someone who really believes in habits and really believes in routines, I also really believe in taking time off. I've talked about how I take 2 weeks every quarter away from my business to go on vacation, usually a trip or, to travel, or to just, step back and take a break from working with clients and different things like that. Like the breaks that you take are so essential in the growth of your business because, like I said in the beginning, they allow you to get reconnected, realigned, and re-energized. So you come back ready to rock and roll, full of content ideas and full of the motivation that you need to keep going. So this is one of those breaks, right? But specifically around content creation. Now, one of the things that I am doing during this time that I would love to just share this behind the scenes insight with you is I am repurposing and updating old content. Now, this is typically happening over on the Brandmerry blog. And the Brandmerry blog has over 300 blog posts. I've been blogging since 2016 and typically every single week. So we've got a lot of content over there. And one thing that is really important when it comes to SEO and, optimizing your content so that it ranks higher on Google is updating your content. So while I'm not creating new content during the summer, I have the capacity to go back and update existing content. Now, when I'm choosing what I want to update, there's a few things that I keep in mind. The first is my Pinterest traffic. So as you know, I love me some Pinterest, and I talk about Pinterest a lot. Pinterest is the number one driver of traffic to my website. Many of my clients find me via Pinterest. So what we'll do is we'll look at the analytics for the past 30 or 60 days. We'll see which type of blog posts are getting the most traffic. We'll start to see which ones are starting to increase, right? Because Pinterest is very seasonal. So is there a topic that suddenly is trending upward that we feel is going to continue through the summer? We'll start to look at that information. I will then go to those blog posts, make sure they're completely up to date, see if there's anything that I want to swap out, make sure it's the right freebie, just doing a general overhaul with that content. The next thing that I love to do is look at my Google Search Console results. And Google Search Console is fantastic when you have content and you've got that data on your website, because Google Search Console will tell you what type of content is actually ranking on Google and for what keywords. And while I get a report every 30 days and I can see what's starting to trend up, what I love to do this time of the year is go to my Google Search Console report, see which blog posts are starting to rank on Google. Sometimes this shocks me, like I have no idea, right? I'm not living in my stats every single day, and I'll make sure that content is optimized. Again, is the freebie updated? Is there a CTA or a product that I want to sell? Is the content itself updated? And this is a really easy way to update old content without having to go through every single post, because Your girl is not going through 300 blog posts to update them and make them relevant. And the last thing that I look for is anything timely. Am I gearing up to promote anything this summer that would work really well with an existing piece of content? Do we have a big launch coming in the fall and I can start sharing, older content with my audience to prep them for that launch? And I can also, go through my content database and see if any blogs fit that profile. We have a massive database of every blog post, every YouTube video, every podcast that has ever been created. We do that inside of ClickUp, and it's really easy for me to go and search a specific topic, get that blog post, head over to the blog, and make those updates. So I am spending a lot of time behind the scenes optimizing my content. And again, I have the capacity to do that because I'm not creating a ton of new content. Now, the beautiful thing about the summer break is that I still get traffic to my website. I still get leads. I'm still engaging my existing audience with helpful educational resources and inspiration because I focus on evergreen content. And that's what I really want you to start thinking about. Maybe you don't take a summer break this year because it just doesn't make sense. But would you like to next year? Would you like to take a month off in October? Would you like to take 3 weeks off between December and, the first couple weeks of January? You are able to do that a lot easier if you set yourself up with evergreen content, blog posts, YouTube videos, utilizing Pinterest, things that are still getting found and discovered online, even when you're not creating new content. That truly is the secret to sustainable marketing. So I can take this break. I can step away in this way because I know I'm still getting leads. I'm still getting eyes on my website. I still have valuable content there that is converting into new subscribers and sales in my business. So please think about that. Again, if you're not in a place where you're like, I can't take a whole week off, or even a whole month off because you're relying 100% on social media, maybe it's time to get these evergreen practices in place so you can do that next year. So that is a little bit around what I do and what I am going to be doing, because this is the last episode before my summer break and I'm heading to Mexico this weekend. I'm just so excited. But I wanted to leave you with some ideas to get you started. So I've got my notes here in front of me, but the first tip that I have is look at your existing content. It could even be social media. Let's talk about social media for a moment. That is not where I am leading in terms of my marketing, but I definitely use it. So if social media was my main marketing platform right now, I would go and look at my analytics. I would look at the top performing posts that I've had, and I would look at repurposing those posts and scheduling those out in advance. Let's say you want to take 3 weeks off, go ahead and schedule 3 weeks of social media content, look at old content that you have that you can repurpose, change out the photo, keep the actual body of it, look at old videos, pair those with a new trending audio. So look for opportunities in that way. It's super similar to what we're doing for a blog post, right? Or even a YouTube video. But obviously there is that need to actually post, right? That's the biggest difference. Like, you still need to be posting and creating content on social media, but you can be repurposing existing content to do that. You don't have to be creating something new. Now, if you have blog content, podcasts, YouTube, videos, look for ways to re-share that content with your audience. So email them again and share a YouTube video on an amazing resource that you maybe shared a year ago. I promise you, they probably don't remember, and it's not going to hurt to reshare that resource because half of your audience hopefully is brand freaking new and might not have seen it in the first place. And anyone that did click through and watch it, they're just gonna say, okay, great, and disregard it and move on with their lives. You could do roundups of existing content. I love to do this with blog posts. Again, you could reshare an old blog post or a podcast as well. So there are ways to take that content and, push it out without having to create something new. You could also create new graphics for Pinterest for these specific pieces of content, something fresh, a new title, a new image, put that out on that platform. You could also take that content and share it again on social media if that is an area where you are showing up. So Let's say like number one is you don't want to create any new content. This is a great strategy for you. And then number two, you don't want to create any content and you don't want to show up on social media. You're just going to be focusing on your email marketing. Another option that is available to you is to take a freaking sabbatical. Now, I think this is something we're seeing a lot more on social media. A lot of the people that I follow have been taking summer sabbaticals, and rightfully freaking so, because the pressure of social media is just at an all-time max. And if you are feeling like you need to step away, I want you to listen to yourself, right? I want you to really consider why that is coming up for you. And again, you can make your summer break in terms of content whatever you need it to be. Maybe you decide, I'm going to focus on my email list just like Michelle does. I'm going to repurpose some old blog posts and I'm not going to show up on social media. I'm going to take a freaking sabbatical. Maybe it looks like, you're not going to create any new content and you're going to just show up on social media like I do when you're feeling inspired. Maybe it looks like, I know I've got my Pinterest working for me. I've got my blog working for me. I'm just taking a step back altogether for even just a few weeks. Really listen to yourself. One of the things that I talk about a lot at Brandmerry is avoiding burnout, building a brand that avoids burnout. And we do that by listening to ourselves. Now, don't get me wrong. You need to make money. I need to make money as well. This is why, again, I really stress that evergreen content. I hope that you're seeing how powerful that evergreen content can be for you when you need to take a break. There's nothing wrong with taking a break. There's nothing wrong with needing that. The question is, are you able to do that and still generate leads and sales? If you're listening to this podcast and you're like, no, but I want that, then now is the time to get started. Another thing that I really love to do that might serve you during this period of time is to try something new. So maybe you have been podcasting, all right? You've been podcasting for a year and you love it, but you don't really have the capacity to try something new like you've been wanting to. So maybe you take a month off from your podcast, a summer break, and you allow yourself to experiment with something new. Maybe you try out weekly YouTube videos. Maybe you go, hey, you know what? I want to go make some short form videos over on TikTok. If I'm not creating my weekly podcast, I have the capacity to do that. Play with it, experiment, see how it goes. You can do that. Or like what I do with my series is that I now have more capacity to write in my business when I'm not, sitting down and creating this weekly content. And so I love writing my storytelling Sunday letters to my email list. And that is a limited time series. So it's not something that I'm committed to doing the whole entire year, but I do it during the summer. It's really great. My open rates are heck strong. I get a lot of feedback on these emails, and it's something that I thoroughly enjoy. So could you create a limited time series in your business? Maybe you're thinking about starting a podcast, but the idea of committing to that makes you nervous. Could you do a limited time mini episode series for 6 weeks and see how it goes? Could you go on to a new platform and experiment and see how that goes? So again, sometimes pulling back in one area allows you to move forward in another area, and being really strategic with where you are dedicating your time and energy and just inspiring yourself during the summer months can be a lot of fun. And on the flip side of all of this, right? On the other side of all of this is that you could just master 90 days of content creation all at one time. Now, I'm only speaking to a select few listeners right now because maybe you are like, I can barely do 30 days, Michelle. And the thought of doing, 90 or even 60 days is a little overwhelming. But if you have been really consistent with your content creation, maybe you challenge yourself this summer to create 6 weeks of podcast episodes in a couple days and pre-schedule those bad boys and just have them post while you take a break. So maybe it's less about you showing up and creating new stuff and getting into that routine of bulk scheduling it so that you can step back and kind of take back the time that you would be dedicating every single week to actually doing something else or just having fun. Go swimming, okay? Go to the pool, please. This is also a really great time to kind of experiment with that, see how it works, and maybe that is a habit or routine that you ultimately stick with. The big thing that I want you to think about is playing, having fun. You know, this is the season to do just that. And sometimes you can discover something new that you wouldn't have traditionally done in your business or even thought about because you were playing and you were having fun and you gave yourself permission to maybe stop with the structure and the weekly content routine that you normally had, take a step back and do something that inspires you. Or, like I've said multiple times, just take the break. You will be absolutely amazed what can happen when you come back. When you come back to creating your content, you will feel so much more inspired and your audience can tell the difference. So I hope that this episode inspired you to rethink your summer content strategy. Even if you just take one tiny thing from this episode, I would love to hear what it is. So send me a DM over on Instagram, or if you're watching this on YouTube, comment below and let me know. And let me know after summer is over. Like, how did it go? How did you feel? Because the one thing that I noticed about myself the first year I did this was that I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I should be creating this. I had been so consistent with my weekly content that it took me, a week or two to go, oh, I don't need to make a podcast this week. And it just gave me so much more flexibility in experimenting in my business and just enjoying this time, working less. And the ultimate goal, my friend, as a reminder, is that you set up your business with this evergreen content so that even when you do step away or take a break, your business is still getting seen, gathering leads, and making sales. And that is what I want for every freaking entrepreneur. Thank you for tuning in to the podcast today. Again, I'll be back with brand new episodes in August. If you want to make sure that you don't miss any of the good stuff this summer, be sure to be on my email list. Now, you might already be on my email list, and that's amazing. But if you're not already subscribed to my email list, head to brandmerry.com/subscribe, and you can join the email list. You get my weekly content, all repurposed, yes, and the Sunday letters I shared, and you'll hear about some exciting things that we have coming this summer. I will see you back in August, well rested and ready to rock and roll, and I hope you have an amazing summer.